Okay, I think I am live. Let me share this bad boy. Let me share it. Share it, share it, share it. I'm losing my mind slowly. Yeah, I think the losing sleep thing is no joke, because I am legitimately, I think I'll be better now that I'm sitting down, but I was noticing that, like, I was feeling dizzy coming down the stairs and standing up, so we try and go to bed before midnight. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, right, I am sharing the link to Discord. And everyone, am back in the saddle again. I'm back. There we go. Link shared. Let us crack a soda and hope we don't wake the child, for I am looking at the monitor and it's the weekend, so it's mime night. Anyway, as we were, let me, is my chat still going? Let's see. I'm never sure about this. Because I end my stream and the chat stays. Let us see. AIO says yay in the Discord, so yeah. Pop out, pop out, pop out. Chat. Yes. Yes. Sorry, just setting up my windows. Just setting up my windows. We will be soldering things together shortly. Wereworm said yes to something. Something that I certainly asked moments ago. All right, no delay. Let's get to it. If you're tuning in without having watched the earlier stream, whether live or the video on demand. Oh, Wereworm says chat is going. Yes, good. I meant more like, can I see? Is my chat window actually synced up with the incoming chat? Anyway, yes. Let us, without delay. If you missed the first part, we're just putting all of the dev cart crap onto the cartridge PCB in hopes that it will improve signal integrity, and because I needed to put SRAM on this thing anyway, so now there's an SRAM on it. And the plan is we're just going to implement one thing at a time. So the one thing I was realizing is, I realized I could just look at the board, but we're using a different ROM now, right? So the most important thing is that I need to make sure this ROM is mapped to the very highest part of memory, which shouldn't be difficult. I think there's 32K of ROM space. Watch me coming back to this repeatedly and never remembering how an NES works. Yeah. So, what was that? NES dev. Because the two things I need to look up is one, ROM CS. I might just end up redoing my my mapper chip. Maybe not. Maybe let's just start by setting it up the way it was before. So I should not think about it too hard. But yeah, the ROM space is 32K. I don't want to use all of that, but I do want the end of my ROM to show up at the end of cartridge space. Though what I did last time was just like repeated the thing twice, right? I've already forgotten like how I set this dang thing up. Anyway, NES dev. NESWiki. And I'm just gonna look for the cartridge, or the cartridge connector again. Yooply dooply doop. And mainly, like I said, ROM select was right. So ROM select is our, hey, you are in fact in the high half memory signal. Okay, right, so what's more important, I think, maybe, is I will go with what I was saying. Oh, WinKuble is not open. WinKuble! And just start with my my current GAL configuration. And we'll improve it with the SRAM and stuff, and figure out what we need to do with this 32K ROM. We also need to kind of decide how we're mapping things, because, well, let's just look at what was in the FDC mapper last we were working on it, because that will give me some clues as to how I was doing things. But I think it was mostly almost all RAM, and then there was like one location that was a floppy thing. Right, so the floppy drive chip enable was, let's see, so I assume pin 1 is program chip enable, so program chip enable is that ROM select? Was that what I was saying? Probably. There's not something else called PRG chip select, right? No, I think I am pretty safe to assume that that was ROM select. This is me not remembering what I was doing, but hey, we can make some assumptions and then deal with it later when it's not right. Let me blow this up a little bit. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. How do I change my font? Font. Sure. There. Hopefully that's better. Because I am not going to keep my screens at different scalings. So, sorry, it is the way it is. So let's start there with the way that mapping was going. The only question is, how was the ROM mapping set up? Or even, that's not even really a question, it's that I can just go with these ins and these outs. Yeah, let's start by wiring up those signals to the GAL, and then we'll work from there. And if this current mapping doesn't work with my smaller ROM that I'm using, and the SRAM mapping that I want to use, then we will simply, change it. The iron's still on, which is super safe. That's good. I'm dizzy and my iron has been on for like 2 hours. That's... They let me have a child and own a house, you guys. Ridiculous. Actually, while I'm here, really quick, I am going to clean up, let's see. Here. Yeah, these guys are my, like, mirroring and shit, connections, and they are long and weird, and I am going to make them not long and weird. Let's just trim those up a little bit as a warm-up, really. Alright, so this guy is coming from VRAM A10, from PPU A10 to VRAM A10, so we're going to take it from VRAM A10 to, or PPU A10 to VRAM A10, but more short. I should really take bets on how many times I'm going to rebuild this card. Or rebuild a card, because this is not even the original card. Alright, that looks good. And I'm realizing I just need to get more webcams, because man, that webcam that I'm using for my face cam right now, I have been using my DSLR for the face cam. That one is just a Logitech 1080p. I feel like it probably cost me under $100. webcam, and it looks freaking great. I even still get a little bit of bokeh, bokeh, whatever you want to call it. But the overhead cam looks like garbage, and that's the DSLR. So I should probably just buy another webcam. Alright, that one is shortened. Now we have CI-RAM CE to PPU A13, which are right next to each other. So you know what I'm going to do? I am literally just going to like put a jumper between those and call it a day. But the question is, wherefore? I was about to say wherefore aren't my wires, and then I was going to say, but that's not what wherefore means. And now I am over it, so we won't do that. What I am going to do is just use a resistor leg, just a little bit, because I want to be able to still use this resistor. That would be cool. Oh, gonna wake up the baby. Alright, little bit of resistor leg is one of our ingredients for tonight. And I don't know, fold it in half around a screwdriver. That's a classic technique. Maybe squish it with some tweezers. Maybe. Think about just using your fingers, realize that it's real pokey. Okay, is that on a 0.1 inch spacing? Let's find out. It appears to be a bit narrow. It is. Let's widen it a little bit. And then I'm going to lose it, and then I'm going to feel silly. Like with the distance away that my overhead cam is with this current setup, I could just be trolling everybody, and like I'm not doing anything. There's nothing in my hand. You'd never know. Okay, that's slightly better. I would like to thank my placement of probably over 1,000 surface mount resistors, capacitors, and oh, what an ironic way to end that thought. I was going to say all of those things for helping to train me for dealing with this little piece of shit, and then I pressed too hard with my tweezers and it went flying away. So cool. Maybe I can just use a piece of wire. That might be a better idea. One second, let me grab my wire bag. Yeah, a piece of solid core wire probably makes more sense. Oh, almost lost it. Yes, creative wire wrap tool use. Let's try it. Hey, that worked pretty good. I could be lying. You would never know. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to go realistic now because we need to get this thing on the road. I'm just going to solder it to the top instead of trying to shove it through these things. So, CI-RAM, CE. There we go. PPU, A13. Add a little extra solder. and clip it on. Done. See, learning not to futz so much. There's the secret. Okay, those are bridged. Now, let us run these gal signals. I need to decide which way to place this actually, because the inputs are actually on this side, so that would probably make more sense. But my thingy indicates that they're pointing this way, so let us use the magic of Sharpie to indicate the pin 1 location. It's also something that I have found very useful lately, because then I can also do it on the back side, and it saves my notoriously short of memory self from making horrible mistakes. Alright. Now, let's deal with the inputs. So, pin 1 is... You know what? Why isn't my desktop up on here? It should be on here. Let's add it real quick. Display, capture, add existing. You probably can't really read anything, so I guess that doesn't really help. I don't know. The scaling looks horrible from my end. Maybe it's better for you. But I do not want to say... Wait, no. I want to cancel because I don't want to close this. Okay. Pin 1 was... I'm going to continue assuming that is ROM select. I love that there are no labels on the back of this thing. That's kind of annoying. All of these are labeled, none on the back. Oh well. Better than nothing. So ROM select is somewhere. What's the number here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, note to self that I should probably also attach power at some point here. It's gonna really like if I do that. Okay, and that goes to pin 1, which is right here. Yep. Strip. And solder. Soldered. So that is chip enable. And then 2 was NES read write, which is, firstly, well, I'll do a continuity check in a minute to make sure that I hooked everything up right. But 2 was NES read write, which is NES read write, NES read write, NES CPU read write, which is, it's across from pin 1, directly across from it. Thank you for making life easier on me. Top row. Oh, actually, it's right across from ROM select. Thank you for making that something that is a little bit easier for me to remember. tin that up a little bit more. Alright, solder whiskers all over the friggin' place. That's good. And that was pin 2. Clip it. Strip it. Oh god, I just clipped my nails too. That's this was a folly. Because, you know, my usual technique is jam the wire under my fingernail and use that to lever it into the stripper, but I don't have a fingernail. No, I need to strip more. What the heck, man? There we go. That is the most trouble I've ever had with this wire. Ever. But I have defeated it. Done. Done, done. Okay. Now it's all just address lines. That's it. Okay, which I have in a weird order for some reason. Pin 3 is A14, 4 is A13, 5 is A12. Huh. I guess I just have them running backwards. I mean, I guess I can just reorder these, right? No reason I can't just reorder these. So let's flip this around the other way. Let's do... Let's see, A4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just making sure they're all contiguous. 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, so let's do this backwards. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Save that shit. And I think... Hopefully I'm not dumb. No, yeah. That lines up in such a way that it will make it more straightforward to wire. Yay for that. Okay, so I guess let's do it, which should be pretty easy because we just start at A4 and go. The only thing to note is that I am skipping pin, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then skip, go to 11. That makes sense. Because 10 is ground or something. Or possibly an output. Something like that. Anyway, 10 is something. But I can just do these in order, so that's nice. Wereworm says, can't you just touch the end of the wire with the soldering iron to make the insulation shrink and expose the wire? No. It doesn't really work with Kynar wire. The insulation on Kynar wire is not as melty and shrinky as pretty much every other kind of wire. So there's that. But in general, it actually is. I find it easier to work with because it's not so melty. So like, and because the the insulation isn't so rubbery and elastic. So it's kind of easier almost generally to strip because it's pretty rigid. So once you just pop it off, it's really clean, and you rarely end up with like half stripped wire and stuff. I am personally a fan. Anyway, so that's going to be address 4. A4 is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from, well, that'll be easier because A0 is the one right next to CPU read-write. So it's just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But yeah, it's mainly the stripping tool is like you have to get it into the stripper, and then there's just a little tiny notch. Hold up. Hard to see, but this is the stripper. I don't know if I've ever given a good view of it, but it's just a little brass piece of brass with this little like harder, sharper piece of metal screwed to the front of it with a little notch in it. So my technique is kind of I feed the wire in there and then I grab my nail and go to pop it in place, but I don't have any nails right now, so usually it's not a problem. Today, of course, of all days, I made the decision to trim my nails. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. There's 4. Let me double check that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Now I can just go in order, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I will need to stop 1 before the end. I need to think of something else to rant about, because you can only exactly describe what you're soldering for so long before nobody gives a fuck anymore. Folololo says, hello. Hello, Folololo. Good to have you. Today, you get to watch me solder things. And try and... You know what? Here's how I'll make this somewhat interesting for myself is... I'm gonna Why can I not think of the word time trial? There we go. I'm gonna time trial myself. Because the main annoying thing about moving everything from that board over to this cartridge, besides the fact that I'm losing the ZIF socket, that's just a side note. Was it you, Wareworm, that told me I should use the ZIF socket in the first place? I mean, a fair number of people. Like, it might have been Trey, too. Might have told me, hey, use a frickin' ZIF socket. And that... It turns out that's not really that much less annoying than just using a regular socket. It's less wear and tear on the socket, I suppose. But, like, in the grand scheme of the cycle of programming it and taking it out, programming it, putting it back in, doesn't make that much of a difference. And it's not just for that reason. Well, also because I don't want to move that ZIF socket over, and all of my ZIF sockets at this point are soldered to things, so I would have to, desolder them to use them, which isn't, impossible. It's just a pain. I don't want to do it right now. But, it's also because my hope here is to basically put the monitor with the BitBang serial loader on the ROM, and then once that's working pretty okay, then we shouldn't have to change the ROM for a while. I will want to migrate some stuff into the ROM, but we can start working out of RAM and just, make changes, restart the machine, throw stuff on the serial, rebuild, retry, all of that good stuff. Wareham said, I was also suggesting dual port RAM. I was actually thinking of exactly that earlier today, because I was like, I have more of those dual porties sitting around, and those 8-bit ones make more sense, because this is a 8-bit machine. But each one of those is only 1K, and I could, make a 1K region of my SRAM that a 1K region of my SRAM that, or of my cartridge space, that is the dual port SRAM, and maybe it would be faster to feed stuff in there, make a routine that fills the 1K, then waits for the block to fill up, and then once it's filled, trigger the NES in some way and move it to the larger chunk of regular SRAM. But at that point, it just seemed like too much of a pain to really be worth it, and not significantly better than sending crap over serial. Maybe a little faster. Though we'll see. I might be able to tune up the serial routines and see how fast we can get them, because we might be able to get them fairly fast. It's not like I'm... The biggest thing with serial that makes you unable to run at faster speeds is cable length and noise, and we'd be running over basically 0 cable length. Also, lower signal level, because 5 volts versus plus or minus 12, so that's a swing of 5 versus 24. So, that is, by the way, the reason that RS-232 runs... Well, there's a couple reasons, but a reason that RS-232 runs at plus or minus 12-ish is noise, because they just dealt with it brute force at that point, so you could use shitty cabling and still get semi-decent speeds out of cheap shitty cabling. Because your voltage is so much higher than the noise floor. And the lower your voltage gets, that's why this is the whole kind of battle with building serial transfer systems, is like the lower your voltage, the less change in voltage has to happen on the wire, and of course change in voltage is largely the time it takes to change voltage is largely determined by your capacitance. And with wires, the longer your wire is, it's going to run in parallel with other wires in a cable, and you're going to get it's 2 pieces of metal separated from each other. That's capacitance, and as it gets longer, that just becomes a bigger capacitor. So, yeah, it gets slower, it gets noisier. So this is why low voltage differential signaling is like magic, because it can be faster, because it doesn't have to move as far to switch, so the time constant for changing from one voltage level to the other is low, but because it's differential, it's much less noisy. It has crazy good noise rejection. And I just think that is super duper cool. Because almost everything these days is some kind of low voltage differential signal. SATA and SAS, USB, kind of. USB is weird. I mean, it definitely is. It's just interesting. HDMI, DVI, DisplayPort, Ethernet, literally PCIe. I'm just saying literally to drive home that like the bus inside of your computer is actually a low voltage differential serial signal these days, which is why running it over Thunderbolt is a thing that you can do. But yeah, it's magic to me. I think it's so neato. Anyway, the whole point of that, I was saying I need something to ramble about. I guess I found it. Really, I just need to let myself go, and I will find my way to a good ramble. Anyway, point being that lower voltage will also affect the speed at which we can go, and obviously also our CPU speed, because we can only make a sampling loop that is so tight before we run up against our actual CPU speed. But since it is such a short cabling length, I feel pretty confident we can probably get that speed up pretty good. Better than 9600 anyway. Okay, and that was pin 9 on the gal. So I'm about to switch, but Eternal Doorman said, sometimes when I can't sleep, I like to wonder how dual-ported memory works. I know, right? It's kind of magic. I believe there's actually a good amount of synchronization mechanisms. Because, I mean, the basic thing, if you look at the datasheet, is just like, it's a matrix of SRAM cells. But there's 2 sets of read-write hardware, I assume, like sense amplifiers and stuff. You know, your row selectors and column selectors. Interesting thought. I wonder if maybe the memory technology itself is actually slightly different, because it could make sense. Now, this is complete conjecture, and it's probably not how it works based on what's in the datasheet and what I was about to describe. But like, if you basically had two memory cells at the same location and wrote to both at the same time whenever you write, but then when you read, have two separate read matrix lines, maybe that would probably make more sense. But on the flip side, I think it's more likely what it is the standard SRAM matrix, and there's actually kind of like arbitration. Like, there definitely is two sections of like row lookup and sense amplification and whatnot logic, and they might arbitrate between each other, like in an asynchronous way that you don't see. I think it's that. But the other way would make sense too. I don't know. It's magic. It's magic. It's magic. Right, so pin 9. So next we go to pin 11, which is 10, 11. And... oh no, it's because pin 10 is ground, that's right. Pin 12 is an input, it's not an output. I was dealing with that on the 68K board. I thought everything on the one... well, I forgot and thought everything on the one side of the board was all available for outputs, but no. Pin 11 is an input only or acts as output enable. But pin 10 is ground. That makes more sense to me. Okay, anyway, so pin... do I just keep going? Because I also kind of ran out of... okay. I ran out of address pins in this row on the cartridge connector. So the next one is A11, which goes to pin 11. And then I have to move down to the other side. Easy enough. Remember when I said this was going to be a time trial? An internal doorman said, yeah, so the buses are completely independent. I think playing thought... my brain. Playing... I was going to say thought games, but that sounds weird. Playing... what's the word? Mind experiments? Thought experiment. There we go. Playing thought experiments with me. That's what I'm trying to say. And then Eternal Lorman said, some sort of clever arbitration on writing is what I usually conclude. It is magic, though, for sure. I don't know, do you mess with dual port SRAM much? Or is it just something you're interested in? Because, like, the data sheets... because it's not a section that I've had to look into in particular, but I'm fairly certain I remember when I was looking at my dual port SRAM data sheets that they kind of describe the mechanism of operation. I don't know in how much abstraction, but I'm pretty sure they do. So if you want to, again, like, this is just if you don't work with dual port SRAM and don't have a convenient, like, I'm sure you could just Google a type, but here, screenshot this. I am using... nope, it is not useful for you at all to screenshot this. But it's IDT 7026 is the model number of one of the dual port SRAMs that I'm using. So I'm pretty sure the datasheet has some information on the mechanism of operation. And that's the only place I'm pulling my vague remembrances out of. Okay, continue. And this will just go around, right? A12, A13, A14. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's become my favorite thing, though. This is a thing I don't think I've really chatted on, is... So clearly, I mean, I've mentioned before, but in case it bears repeating, a bunch of these fun things that I've been using in my projects lately, including Sysclock M2 A12. I'm glad I checked. I have to skip 2 pins. Anyway, including this floppy controller, including the 68Ks that I'm using in the video card, including the what else? The MIPS, which again, IDT. IDT keeps cropping up for me. They have made some interesting things. But yeah, the MIPS CPU, embedded CPU thing that I'm going to be using. The UARTs that I used on the 65816 project that I plan on also using on the MIPS project. A lot of friggin' stuff. All random eBay finds, like surplus stuff. And I mean, this isn't a new thing. People in the electronics hobbyist community are always talking about, you know, finding surplus parts. But I feel like it's more like it tends to be there is a known part they need, and they find it surplus on eBay. But for me, it's tended to be the fun that I've had lately, and by lately I mean like the last few years. It's searching on eBay for something I'm vaguely interested in, like MIPS CPUs, or dual-port SRAM, or, you know, stuff like that. And just, like, finding cool stuff and being like, ooh, what could I do with that? And that's why for years I've had a bunch of this stuff sitting around, like the 68Ks, the UARTs, all that kind of stuff. And it's just been, I highly recommend it. It has just been the most fun to, like, on a whim look stuff up. And it can, I guess it really ranges price-wise. Some stuff is like the dual-port SRAM is so friggin' expensive. And again, it's relative, but like per, like in the realm of non-production ICs, right? Because the ow, I keep putting my finger on the other side of the pad and burning the shit out of myself. The dual-port SRAMs, right? I don't remember, and I just bought them, but it's already slipping my mind. But the 1K by 8 were reasonable-ish. I don't remember off the top of my head. I could look it up, but I'm not going to, because I'm on a time trial. I told you, going as fast as I can, clearly. But those are reasonable. I got 5 of them for, I don't know, probably under $20. But the 16-bit 32K ones, well, they're 16K by 16. That's what they're. That I'm using for VRAM are like $25 a piece. And the CPLDs that I've been using, those lattice parts, I don't know what they run right now. You can still totally find them. I was worried that like I'd grow to really like them and then run out. I think I have 5 of those as well, and that's kind of true. They've been really fun to play with, but I was afraid like they would not be around anymore. There's still tons of money on eBay, but those, when I bought them, were like $15 a piece. So that is also not the cheapest. And so, you know, to buy 5 of them, what is that? It's like $60, $75. So, I mean, it's not like if you have a 9 to 5, it's not going to like throw you into poverty. But on the other side, some stuff is just so cheap. Like, I remember the floppy controllers, I think, were quite cheap. And those UARTs also quite cheap. A lot of stuff that like the UARTs were nice, because I just needed a UART of some sort for the 65816 board. And so I just Googled eBay for UARTs, and those are the ones that came up, and they were a really good price because nobody cares or knows about a random XR PLCC 2-channel UART chip. So they were a really good deal, and they work great. I think that's all my address lines. A11, A12, A13, A14, and this is 12, 13, 14. That looks right. I am just fastidiously looking at this thing to make sure there are no bridges. I know, I was saying earlier, it's never going to be those. It's always software or completely wiring something wrong. Yeah, I guess that was the end of that ramble thought. But that means I can go move to the outputs now, which is fun. So that starts at pin... Pin. Did I already have this all mapped out? Huh. I'll have to double check that, because like I had SRAM chip enable set up and everything, but I didn't assign any equations to it. Okay. That's fine. And we'll have to check if that ROM mapping is sensible. But anyway, I just want to map the ROM right now, so... I mean, I guess I could also chip enable the SRAM. It's not like that's going to... Now, let's just do this one thing at a time. Let us wire up ROM chip enable, and then we can wire up all the ROM signals we need. And so, ROM chip enable is 19. Second from last. And let me pull up the frickin' pinout that I can never remember for JEDEC ROMs. Well, this is a little different. This is a C18, that's 28C256. 28C256 pinout. I search for that a lot, you see. Because I can't keep it in my head. Okay. Copy image address. Yes, that's all I want. Remember when Google Images used to be good for viewing images? Those were the days. Back to the overhead. In the meantime, Eternal Doorman said, "Thanks, I'll look that up. No, I don't have any hardware experience to speak of. I like thinking about the kind of software you could write with it." Yeah, also as a side note, you'll see if you look at the datasheet for that one, it also supports a hardware semaphore mechanism. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if I'll use it for anything, but they do. That's fun. Christian Iverson said, "Did the stream restart, or have I slept way too little lately?" I don't know about your sleep patterns, but I've done 2 streams today. We started about 50 minutes ago. And Eternal Doorman says, "Christian Iverson, I don't know. I seem to have about 47 minutes in a buffer somewhere, and that's what YouTube tells me it should be." That matches what I'm seeing. Okay. According to this sweet little pinout I've got here, chip enable is pin 20. And let me mark pin 1 again, or else I am going to make some horrible mistakes. I'm also going to like really mark where pin 1 is on this thing, because it looks backwards. And I don't want to F that up. Anyway, pin 1, pin 1. Also, another thing, especially working on the video card lately, that I've gotten more comfortable with is just packing things more tightly when I'm doing this. Because, firstly, shorter wiring, generally always good for this type of stuff. But as well. I marked it right, yes? Okay, good. Like, once I feel safe enough that I'm not going to bridge anything, which I've been doing this enough now lately that I feel very confident about keeping my solder tight. Like, having chip legs like one row away from each other is not an issue of any sort. So you can just cram them all together. And it's nice because unlike making a PCB, you can just stack your wires. You don't have to worry about routing at all. Okay, anyway, we are looking for... This is also going to be interesting because there's a hole in the middle of this, and I want to make sure that I don't run wires through it. Anyhow, so this is 28, chip enable is 20, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. And that seems right. That is right. Cut that a touch long. And I should ground output enable on this. And reminder to myself, everyone, because you know me, I am going to forget. Run power to the chips. They like it when you do that. All right. 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. Sure. That looks fine. Okie dokie. And let's do a quick sanity continuity test, just to make sure I actually ran the right wires to the right place. Too bad Christian isn't here. He would be giving me the old beeps, but you know, you can only do what you can do. All right, so firstly, pin 22 on the ROM. That is 28. Actually, let's go from the other way, just to be super safe. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And that is supposedly going to gal pin 19. It should be this one. Yay. All good. And now let me check those dress lines. I'm pretty confident they're fine, but confident and certain are two different things. 1, 2, 3, and that starts at A4. A4, yes. A5, yes. A6, yes. A7, yes. A8, yes. A9, yes. A10, yes. A11, yes. A12, yes. A13, yes. A14, yes indeed. And then 2019, well, we just did that. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Beautiful. So, now, to get this ROM working, and by working, I mean give it a chance of working. We gots to run data. We gots to run address. I think maybe I'll actually start running power right now, not just because I am prone to forget, but also because I want to tie output enable on the ROM low so that it is always enabled, because you will never ever need to write to this ROM. And I have run out of black wiring, so I'm just going to use gray wiring. In case you were curious. Also, when I did the character ROM, I just ran power using the normal wires, which I feel like is almost better because these really chonk things up. But too late. Also, they're more of a pain in the butt to solder. The more I think about it, the more I'm pretty sure the ROM is more or less just going to work. I just have to make sure. I'm probably going to have to rebuild the code slightly to account for the size of the ROM, because it's 1/4 the size of the ROM I was previously using. And that is just to make sure it fits in the ROM image and that my highest address is at the end of that ROM, which is going to be 4 times, well, it's actually going to be half as early, you know what I mean, as the old one, because the old one had it mirrored twice. No, it had it offset into the ROM. Anyway. But this one is actually, because that one was bigger than our addressable ROM area, this one is actually smaller than our addressable ROM area. So instead of only having part of our ROM visible, we're actually going to have repeats of our ROM. I think. Right, where's VCC? VCC is hiding over here. Actually, I am dumb. VCC is conveniently around the whole perimeter of the card, and it is the inner wire trace, whatever. And on my, I'm pretty sure for all of these, it's going to be the last pin is VCC, and the last pin on the first side is going to be ground. I am confident with that assessment. I feel good about that. I am beginning to remember. Okay, pin 20 on the gal. Like, also these would be way easier to deal with proper wire strippers, which you know I don't have. So I just kind of have to like nibble at them until there's enough of a cut in it that I can safely pull it, and do all of that without hopefully cutting through the actual wire. So, bad technique, do not follow my lead. Alright, there is gal power. Christian Iverson says, oh, there's actually been some stuff. Oh no, yeah, just Christian Iverson says, I have bad memories of the 28C chips, wanted to allow partial and unaligned writes on a 16-bit bus in 68K assembler. It took longer than implementing an MD5 hasher in the same language. Why? Why? You should, like, well, it depends on what 68K chip you're working with, but 68K has, like, a specified lower and upper byte line. I know, because I was just working with my 68K. So I'm curious what you mean, because I don't quite follow. And the 28C chips are just 8-bit ROMs, so I'm not sure. I'm also not sure what that has to do with the language in question. I am unknown. Oh, well, okay, you say paged flash is a nightmare. Oh, right. I'm not thinking. You're writing to the ROMs. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, now I'm starting to put it together. Yeah, I don't write to these flash ROMs, except in my programmer, so I'm not worried about it. Okay. Yeah, so by partial and unaligned, you mean within within the flash page. Now I'm picking up what you're putting down. Power, 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 do. See? Fucked that one up. Fucked that one up. And also, as has been mentioned, I think it was Wereworm that said, why don't you just use your iron to melt the insulation a little bit. It's just not, it doesn't work consistently great for me. And it really, I feel like, depends on the specific make of wire that you're using. I don't know. It seems touchy to me. Should I just run all of my power to the bus running around the edge? I probably should, right? Instead of doing my traditional thing of just running wires higgledy-piggledy from point to point. Like, make my life easier, right? Pin 28. Pin 28, is that correct? It is. Okay, cool. This is another thing that, you know, almost all dips pretty much have this standard layout where ground is in one corner, VCC is in the other corner. It's not always the same. Like, especially, I feel like it's mostly, like, dip CPUs have the power pins in unusual places. But pretty much all the other ones, they follow this convention. And I never feel confident about it for some reason. Again, that goes back to my theme of the day, that I feel like working with this kind of stuff, it's mostly about confidence. Like, you're probably right. And if you're not right, you're probably not that wrong. And on top of everything else, like, I can't let it become analysis paralysis for me, because I mean, that's all it is, right? Like, for the most part, I've found, now again, this is working with modern chips. This would not be true for some truly old chips, but it would have to be truly old, I find. Because I've worked with some fairly oldish chips, you know, like circa the 80s. And particularly, my point is, if you get VCC and ground backwards, for instance, I actually don't think I can think of a case that I have done that, and it has permanently killed the chip. Now, I may throw them in the potentially marginal chips bin, but that's more out of an abundance of caution, because, you know, it's possible that after doing that, they won't run as reliably, and they'll start flaking out. But anyway, my point is, you should just go for it. You should go for it more often. There's a fine line, I think, between, you know, move fast and break things. There's a certain amount of that I mean, honestly, I can agree with. It's the best way to figure it out, you know? And especially when you're working with people who, you know, if you're working with, like, newish people to a field that you are an expert of some degree in, you can see that it's frustrating, because people will be afraid to try things out of a fear of fucking up, when it turns out that with everything you're gonna fuck up anyway, firstly, but also that usually the fucking up is not nearly as bad as you think it is. Almost always. It's hard to really fuck up bad. And sometimes when you do, it's so impressive and tends to be so beyond your scope, really, that, like, people are gonna... I don't know, what am I trying to say? Be more... I almost want to say be more impressed that you managed to fuck shit up that bad. But mainly it's also that it doesn't end up really being just your fault. It's hard to be one person fuck up so bad that on your own, that it's going to cause major problems that like will get you in huge trouble. Because that usually takes the work of a chain of multiple people to really get wrong. And it's like, if the person who was supposed to be knowing that you, or, you know, who was supposed to be like managing you, I guess, or handling you, it comes down to that of like, how did you manage to let this happen on your watch? So anyway, the point that boils down to is, you know, there's really no way to fuck up something most of the time in a capacity of building or making something professionally or what have you that is so bad that it's really a problem. It's either not really a problem and you just gotta fix it, or it's such a problem that it's everyone's problem. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's getting way outside of the scope of kind of what my original point was, but I'm trying to work on my fearless building of things and not letting anxiety about not getting it right scare me away from just doing it and then finding out if it didn't work later, because it usually works fine and then you just didn't waste time. Okay, so that's my power. And I've wasted time gabbing. On the flip side, don't, you know, be kind. Don't break shit because breaking shit is good if it, you know, is bad for somebody. There's my philosophy. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. So now, right, the other thing I want to do is ground output enable, which is pin 22. So that is, so my chip enable A10 and, so let's do it from here. Right, chip enable A10. Output enable. I guess here's what my professional advice also boils down to, I guess, is because there's an important corollary, which is doing nothing or not trying something. Using the word bold is a little vaguer than I would like, but I'm gonna use it anyway. Not trying something on the bolder side is almost universally worse than doing something and fucking up, or, you know, doing something and getting it wrong, or not getting it quite right every time. There's my professional advice for you. I think that corollary is more important. Eternal Doorman said, it looks really great. You talking about my soldering job? Because I don't know. And Zelsa said, indeed. And I don't know if saying it that way is supposed to be a dig at my pseudo-intellectual rambles. I don't know, man. This is what you get from a guy who hasn't had good sleep in the last couple nights and is inhaling solder fumes. Wareham said, never kill a chip with reverse power, don't jinx it. Now that you've soldered chips without sockets. Yeah, well, that's why see, there's the thing, is set yourself up for success so that you can be more bold, such as using sockets. It's a good idea when you're prototyping. This I have found. Also, just because, like, when you solder it in and then you realize that, like, you used the wrong chip or you put it in backwards, way easier to deal with when you have a socket. Work in a way that gives you options, but always plow forward. Eternal Dorman said, yes, the board as a whole. Can't see that closely, though. I know. You know what? I will manually tighten in on this because I'm going to be spending a lot of time soldering. Ugh. But then I have to, like, refocus and stuff, so, you know. And also that means I have to make sure I work a little more forward. And should I manually focus? No. I am not feeling that brave. Sparko Cam to the rescue. Autofocus, come on now. That's better. I will take it. It's also kind of, with the light shining directly onto here, it's also just generally hard to see. Like, especially like the solder blobs and whatnot become hard to photograph. Yeah, it's kind of blurry, I guess. I'm gonna move to using all webcams. I'm giving up. I'm giving up on the fancy cam. But the fancy cam sucks, and it costs $200 fucking. Christian Iverson said, I should have explained it better. I bet all of us have some chips where one just goes nope when asked to write something for them. Yeah, no, I just wasn't understanding. I was looking at it from the wrong perspective as far as that chip goes. None of that rant was intended to be about that at all. I wasn't even thinking about that. Because I can see that, because that's more of it's a personal thing, and I feel like not wasting the time on it if I don't have to. Like that I get. If it's I want to accomplish something for fun, then different story. But if you can accomplish the same thing for fun without doing the annoying thing, again, that's the giving yourself options and designing in a decent way, which is different from being scared. In a less pain in the ass way. What am I doing now? I guess just address lines, right? Yeah, let's start there. And the nice thing is I already know where they are from having done them all on the other chip. What I don't know, oh, well, I have a pinout right in front of me, so we are all set. Let's do it to it. What is A0 is at 10, which is 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. Oh, and to answer where I'm saying, don't jinx it wiring things backwards. You're right. I mean, you know, I don't want to jinx it. But, I mean, dead serious, man. I've never had a significant problem with it. I have thought that I have blown chips wiring them in backwards before. But almost every time it turns out that, like, oh, I was just still not using the chip right. Stuff like that. I don't think there's been a legit time that I can think of. I mean, also, you know, usually, I guess I'm aware that can be a thing that I've done too, so I will immediately pull power if I just wired something up and things obviously aren't working right, I guess. So maybe that helps save me as well. Because obviously running it for a while backwards is eventually going to kill the protection diodes. But I think that's the other main thing, is like most modern chips have the protection diodes in them at this point. Which are, you know, they're only going to pass so much current. I guess it depends on your power supply, right? Maybe that's part of it, because I largely run things off of USB, so for the most part, I'm going to get a max of 500 milliamps. Like, if all that is between power and ground at that point is a protection diode, I guess. I mean, it's also a low voltage differential, so like for most, like I'd imagine for a protection diode, that's not above the breakdown voltage. So I don't know. That's the thing. I think I'm no electrical engineer. But my gut feeling is any chips, since they started putting in protection diodes, are probably hard to kill that way. Anyway, A0, A1. I'm not advocating go out there and break your chips and then come crying to me when they are broken. Let me be clear about that. It's just never been a problem for me as an individual. And I mean, you know, neither has systemic racism, or just because it hasn't been a problem for me doesn't mean it's not a problem. Let's caveat that one. You think people tune in for my my nuanced views on white guilt? Nah, I feel like it's cool. I think it's interesting. Man, this is when you get me late night, this is when I really start. This is not the first time I've had these kind of rants. But I think they're fun. I have such a small viewership anyway that it's like, and I do this for fun. I don't do this for I'm not here to make friends, you know. Actually, I am here to make friends. That's all I'm here for. I'm not here to make money. So, whatever. If you leave because I'm saying some bullshit you don't agree with, that's fine. You're entitled to your bubble. Yeah, this is late night when it's just a soldering session. You get the juicy stuff. Oh, but I was gonna say it is interesting. I find just like the political leanings and opinions of the tech community as a whole are, I don't know, interesting, because I feel like it tends to really be you don't really get a lot of like reactionary conservatives. You get some, but I feel like you get more like that in like the corporate setting than anything else. I don't know what it is. Like maybe those types of people just don't develop as much of an interest in like fucking around on the internet, so I don't run into them. Like as far as like doing silly software things and stuff like this, because you know, it's like also there are two camps. There is live coding and I guess live electrical engineering is what this is. Well, not electrical engineering, live electronics hobbyist crap, which tends to be more, you know, lighthearted, silly hobbyist. And I feel like that type of personality wouldn't be interested in that so much, so maybe that's self-selecting a little bit. So you don't see a ton of that. But, so what you end up seeing is either a lot of quite liberal people, especially because you got a lot of these people who are, you know, young people living in urban areas, which tend to be the kind of people who skew pretty liberal, or real libertarian. You also have this like interesting libertarian streak, which I think is more like the, I don't know, the entrepreneurial wing of the tech community. And I get it. And there's a range, because there's like, I don't know, personally I tend to be like I realized the other day, that's what I was telling my wife, like, huh, I think you realize you're old when like you realize that you are almost like a neo-lib. Because I'm like in that spot where like I believe in a regulated free market, but like I'm not. See, I've already moved this thing. Anyway, you know, I'm like middle of the road liberal. I'm socially super liberal. I am fiscally moderate. I believe in some, you know, I believe in helping out each other through the mechanism of government. Yeah, I'm like a all things, balance in all things. And anyway, the point there was going to be like, I feel like libertarians really skew. Like there are some libertarians that are just like super friggin' hardcore about it all the time, and then there are some that are like more that way, you know, that are like, I feel like because libertarianism really stems from, I'm just gonna take this full hog. I'm not even gonna talk about electronics anymore. I'm gonna talk about the history of political liberalism. Because yeah, that's the whole thing. Is really classical libertarianism is a child of classical liberalism. And so like there's all the bits of libertarianism that I totally think makes sense, which is the laissez-faire society. I'm with that. I think that's actually one of the ones that I find weird is the like tech libertarian who is also like kind of weirdly socially conservative. I don't understand that one. Because like the whole point of libertarianism is supposed to be like free, capital F free, right? And I can get behind the idea. I think it's kind of impractical. And you'll find that like that's not even what like the classical free market economists, who were making shit up, by the way. I mean, economics it's a thing, like as a study. It's yeah. Anyway, yeah, classic liberalism. I don't know. I lost my train of thought, which is so disappointing because I was trying to go so hard with the talking about my political stances enough to alienate everyone. I'm gonna look at my chat now though, because I think people have been mostly positive. Zelsa says he started this whole thing out with hot takes. For what it's worth, I do tune in for those in part. I figure there are some people who are totally down, because it's not the first time that I've ended up rambling about this kind of stuff. And for the record, also my stance is like, that's part of, I think, how I feel about being, baby noises, you know, socially liberal is, well, avoiding the pitfall of the tolerance of intolerance. That's a whole obvious thing, but like generally, I think our individual political opinions, it's the aggregate political opinion that's, or what is the word I just used? Aggregate political motion in a body, if that makes any sense, like group political opinion. Because, you know, because me and my dad don't agree on our fiscal politics, I'm not gonna like, and this is me too, I'm not gonna like friggin' ruin my relationship with him over that, because me and my dad's votes are not gonna individually make that much of a difference between each other. I'm not gonna convince him, he's not gonna convince me, we know that enough, and I'd rather have a dad, you know what I mean? Or, you know, otherwise, friends. It's just me and my dad do have that dynamic. But that's also how I feel about that. So I want to make that clear. It's like, I'd hope that even if you don't totally agree with what I'm saying and my opinions and whatnot, that you'd be the type of person who listens and is like, yeah, but, and then, you know, still tunes in. I think that's being a real champ. I think that more than arguing over it or, you know, fighting about it is just disagreeing, going, well, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more, and then I have to do all of the non-contiguous address lines, which are the annoying part. It's reading chat. The bad ones, though, are really bad. Peter Thiel, yes, Elsa says. I know. It's like, well, it's because they also, there's that, it's the, it has nothing to do with tech, for the record. I think that this is an important thing to mention, is that most, especially like most of the tech news, like the things that make tech news, aren't, and most of the people like at the top of the tech news cycle have fuck all to do with tech, right? It's about the entrepreneurship scene and VCs and whatnot. And these people, they don't need to be technical. It has nothing to do with the technology. It has nothing to do with being an engineer or making a product. They could be in any industry. It's just that happens to be hot and sexy right now, right? So, I mean, it's the robber baron thing, you know? It's like that Zuckerberg is the robber baron of this Gilded Age. And that has fuck all to do with being good at drilling oil. It's being good at manipulating the system and building an empire, right? And that's that gets to me, because that's where you get your like Peter Thiels and whatnot. Is these aren't tech guys. They are people who are megalomaniacal and are megalomaniacal people looking for an opportunity to increase their empire, or there's a bunch of people too in that role who believe that they're doing a good, or it's their mission, because when you're a sociopath, and that gets so used, and I think the negative connotation of it does a disservice. It's just that, you know, you have a big ego, so you think your idea is good, and therefore using it to change the world is a good thing, right? Because you really believe that. And that is psycho. Whether it's good or bad, if that's really how you feel, it is psycho. And that's how people, again, robber barons or current tech VC types, it's about that economic game playing and megalomania that make those people who they are, not it being tech, you know? I feel like it's not discussed, it's just, it's swept under the rug a little bit in the conversation. Anyway, yeah, basically, fuck a Palantir. A Palantir, sorry. I don't want to anger Lord of the Rings nerds. That would be a huge mistake. Unlike Peter Thiel, who has stolen from them directly and made it into an evil thing. I mean, the Palantir was already an evil thing. But... Okay, anyway, maybe I can read another comment. Zelsa said, it's also somewhat by age/subgroup. Like, a lot of guys in the old mud dev communities have spectacularly toxic politics. I can see that. No, you're totally right, because there's... Well, we bubble. You know, I guess that makes sense. It's like tech people would tend to, you know, early internet adopters. So, you know, some of the first people to really socially bubble. And yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. There are particular sub-communities that are real weirdly bad. Catching up. Eternal Doorman said, that guy, Stefan Molyneux, I can't remember if it's Stefan, but I know vaguely who you're talking about. Isn't he a techie in the OpenBSD world? Is that somebody else? That sounds vaguely familiar. We're gonna have to Google him, because you're definitely talking about something that I should know more about if I'm gonna, you know, do this kind of observation about communities at large. Because it's not nobody. It's just a preponderance, I think, is my point. These are the scenes. The folks you tend to see. Did you ever notice did you ever notice that tech guys are like this, and VCs are like this? And what's up with airplane food? Where said, it's just a different kind of racism. Just ask which is better, Windows or Linux, PC or game. That's a thing. I think, here's an interesting thing, though. Is it not a little bit possible that, because there's a huge, like, that's a toxic issue. I mean, there are people who are really, it hurts me every time that, LTT does any commentary on, like, when they were doing the Linux trial, because they're not wrong. I think they're really, really quite decently balanced on, yeah, Linux is cool, but, like, the community has a toxicity problem, and it sucks, because it's not, like, I feel like the developers and stuff are generally pretty cool. It's, like, the people surrounding it that just, the pocket of people that give it a really sour taste in your mouth. But my point was going to be, maybe it's people who have weird, different things to focus on. They're like, like that some people just need, like, in their personality type, need something to, like, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like the white power thing, is you do it to make yourself feel like there's no way you can be inferior, right? Because you're scared of feeling inferior. Because you're, what's the word? Insecure in that way. I'm fine with being inferior. It's not because I'm white. I'm just, there are so many ways for me to be inferior. We're all dumbasses. Accept it. Yeah, when you have something else to focus that energy on, when you have that kind of personality type, that's not, at least, it's still not great, but at least it's not, like, undermining a whole class and grouping of human beings. I think that really might be a thing. It gives some people, like, something else to target. I need to be more right than you about something. Energy. So maybe we should make everybody, maybe we should trick all white nationalists into being, into getting really into GNU. Which would also be funny, because then, like, Stallman, as far as I understand, is like a super, I mean, Stallman is like, is Stallman like, I don't know how else to phrase it. I'll think of it as an actual communist, but you know what I mean? Like, is he a... Is that his... I really don't know. I feel like I get that feeling, but I've never actually confirmed if Stallman is, like, a hyper left-wing person. But that would be funny. Putting the super right-wing into the false camp to get it out of their system. It also said, Wereworm, nobody's been lynched for choosing PC or Mac, like I was saying. Is that, maybe that's a good redirection. Eternal Doorman said, Wereworm, I can see that the personal emotional response level involved is the same. I'd never actually considered that. Yeah, it's an identity thing. It's also said, certainly, but the consequences / depth are different. And Eternal Doorman said, I say is, I mean could be, I think. And, or because you're invested so much of your position that you can't change it without changing your whole life. Yeah. And Zelsa said, at Eternal Doorman, it's always sad when you see someone come so close to having a personal epiphany, and then they realize how invested they are and turn back. Yeah, I've pretty much gotten off of Reddit, but I do enjoy, like, self-aware wolves is pretty, it's a thematically great idea. Because that, yeah, that happens a lot. Eternal Doorman said, from Wikipedia, Molyneux previously, oh, thank you. Yes, let's read about this. Molyneux previously worked in the software industry, wrote 9 articles for libertarian Lou Rockwell's personal website, and made appearances on Press TV, InfoWars, and RT. Huh. Eternal Doorman said, I was thinking of investing much more materially. I had a big argument with Richard Stallman about software once, and it all boiled down to how he couldn't live without his source code. You've chatted with Stallman? I mean, it's not like he's a hard man to gain access to, but... Stallman, the man's so weird that when things involving... Oh, that's so sad that it's escaping me now. It's been so long. The zeitgeist cycle continues. Blah, 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 didn't commit suicide. Ghislaine Maxwell's dude. Oh my god, what the fuck is wrong with me? Yeah. Stallman, the guy who's so weird that when he gets into he's the one man who touches that scenario and comes out not really any worse on the other side. Because everybody already thought he was fucking weird. Anyway. Oh, was that my 8th layer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, speed run. Now we have to find 9. Oh lord. This is where it gets weird. That's pin 24. Orient that's not shitty. 28, 27, 26, 25, 24. But yeah, on the flip side, if you're on the wiki thing, what was Molyneux involved with? He was a BSD guy? It's like, it kills me, because I know, like, I've definitely heard of Molyneux, like, maybe in reference on Twit or similar. You know who I think has really good politics? Leo Laporte. God bless him. I think he's right in my camp. So I have the same politics as West Coast men in their mid-60s. Sure, that's fine. Do you like the way that I am soldering in such a way that you can't see it? Adjusting the camera is such a freaking pain. Sorry. Okay, that was A9. Eternal Torment said it wasn't so much a chat as a flame war. Yeah. I mean, when is... The man's life is a flame war. Eternal Torment said, the trouble is software builds up crud over the years and you need to throw it away and start again. That hardly ever happens because it's too expensive. That is fairly true. You know, it's tough because there's always the, like, ooh, we need to rewrite it in whatever is shiny and new this year issue. But you're not wrong, because sometimes it's doing it not because it's shiny and new, right? Like, you don't need to re-implement your UI in a new framework because that framework is the new hotness. Like, your UI framework is probably fine. It's more like you thought of a better way of structuring it now that you've built the whole thing, so maybe it's time to rebuild some of the major modules because you've thought it through better. That kind of shit. I did these backwards. Right. It's A8 then A9, not A9 then A8. So it's like, yeah, that middle ground of, well, you don't need to never change it. Like, I feel like, look at Linux, for example. Now, I'm not like a kernel maintainer or anything, but the impression I get out of that is that, like, how things are implemented change pretty regularly because, oh, you know what, this is a way smarter way to do it, and it's going to enable a bunch of other things, so let's redo that a little bit. And that they do that fairly regularly. And, I mean, there's some kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? Like a straw man, fallacy. There's some kind of fallacy in the, you know, like, it's big and a lot of people use it, so therefore it must be right. But at the same time, it's a successful, functional project. And I think that I get the impression that they do that a lot, and I feel like it is in service of that it is successful. Why can I not find this? BCC, right enable, A13. A8. Sorry, 1 second, I have to focus. This is real poopy. A8, A9. But yeah, so that means just because there is reason to redo things on occasion doesn't mean you should do it because a new thing came out or people are doing things in a different way in general lately. Which I feel like developers never really think. That's more of like a higher level managerial thing, which the closer and closer I work into like the proper software industry, like I used to be a more of a cowboy coder, like a writing software for a non-software team. You know what I mean? Like not making a software product so much, like in-house tools and stuff. Building utilities for business use, being embedded with the people doing that, being embedded with engineers engineering other things, writing software to enable those people, and very much cowboy coding. So I have a bit of an outsider's, I think, perspective due to that as well. And now, like, I work in an actual software contracting house these days, and it's new to me. Been working there 2 years, and I enjoy a lot about it. But you see a lot of, with the management structure, there's a lot of positions where it is not that, like, it's not that everybody has to be technical, right? I don't want to say that, because that's like a programmer's elitist thing. That's totally not true. There are a lot of skill sets that are important in making a project work, but I think it's one of those things where people in those positions, because they're in software, though they are not software people, they still sometimes feel like they have technical acumen, or don't do as much deferring of technical consideration to the technical people, and so you get weird stuff because of that. Totally lost where I was going with that, but something. Let me know if you can find what I lost there, okay? Anyway, it's interesting. Oh, just as far that was the thing. As far as products getting made and switching to the new hotness, it's more of a decision of people. I feel like that rarely is actually happening due to the decisions of implementers and individual contributors. It's more of a management people who want to seem like they know more than they do situation. Now, I want to be clear, I haven't run into that at my company. I can just see how that would happen. And I think that's where those decisions come from. And that's not why you should do a rewrite. You should do a rewrite because you thought of a better way of doing something. Or now that you've put things together and you found out what your feature set really needs to be and how things really need to function for the user, that the way you wrote it originally doesn't really serve that end, and it can be restructured better to actually fit what is really happening in the real world. All I'm trying to say here, guys, is there's this gray area. We all know it. It's the people who don't that really cause trouble. But also they tend to be the people who have outsized influence. What's up with that? A10. That is between output enable and chip enable. Okay, I'm gonna have to count. VCC, write enable, A8, A9, A11, output enable. Oh god, did I wire output enable to the wrong thing? Might have. VCC, write enable, A13, A8, A9, A11 output enable. No, I just counted wrong. Good. A10. I'm gonna read chat again here in a minute because I'm saying stuff that like people are actually engaging with, and then totally just like continuing to talk like they're not like you're not adding to the interesting insights, and you totally are. So let me solder this and then check. And you can't see this. Okay, here, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this. Oh, huh. Well, sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom out then, because this is, if I rotate it, it loses tension in the screw, and that's not working for anybody. And I have a step stool, but I don't know where it is. Okay, I'll just try and lean forward more. I thought I was going to take a big bold stand and get things done here so you could actually see, but no, I just made it worse. Oh. So hey, chat. So we were talking about software building up CRUD. Celsius said, Eternal Doorman, certainly one thing Apple's been pretty devoted to. I agree. It's a mixed bag, but I think that's a good. Well, there's a balance. I think they serve different masters, right? Like Windows has been very effective at what it does because they have chosen their market niche of being incredibly reliable as far as maintaining a consistent experience, right? And not causing trouble. Whereas Apple knows that their base is make it always not design over like continuity, but because I don't think it's really that, but more keeping it fresh and making the product enjoyable, usable, up to date over legacy. And it's because they're two different niches, and I think they both do them well. Immediately after that, Zelsa said, on the other hand, MS sits there with change the header, and when 1x binaries can work 40 years later, and IBM System 360 compatibility goes hold my beer, which I have super respect for on both of them. I think they're all great. And this is why I run Windows 11 in parallels on my MacBook. Oh, Derek Quinsberg is here. He said, I've said you have to build any piece of software 3 times. That's like a saying, right? Or there's something like that. That's like from a book or somebody. That you have to build software X number of times to really have it good. Derek said, with me, often step 1 never gets seen by anyone else. My local scratch code before I actually build it in step 2. I think that's a good way to go. Because that gives you that fearless thing too, because your scratch code can be garbage, and once you like proof of concept it, you can make it good, and then that's the actual thing. I tend not to get to step 2. Oh, and Derek said, sorry, I'm just trying to follow Derek's thread. First, to figure out how to make it work. Second, to actually put together a complete system. Third, to architect it correctly now that you know how to do it. I think that's spot on. And that tends to be how it works best. I don't know, but it changes with everything. Jacob said stained. It's been a while. Oh, because you're just tuning in. I get it. I have a soft spot for stained. Just FYI. It's been a while. Mostly like the old stuff. I used to mow the lawn and listen to Mud Shovel a lot. Only semi-ironically. Jacob said, nah, to-do list, throw that baby in Kubernetes. Everything, stuff has its place. I do, we're rolling off of a thing right now, but it was all microservices stuff. My first time messing with that, which I thought would be interesting because I get the impression with people working in microservices, and like especially if that's been your career, that's the only window that you've seen your work through. And it's not to like totally throw the whole thing under the bus, but it's like coming in as a like jumping around from different things developer with I don't want to say a lot of experience. I want to say a lot of experiences. I feel like I can say that. It's just a bunch of little HTTP servers, right? Like, it's not... I don't know. It's from the outside in, it's like way more simple than it seems to be made out to be, if that makes sense. And so I don't know. That's just interesting, but it makes me... it's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about microservices, because like it feels like microservices were chosen because people do microservices, and it's a fairly big app. It's got a bunch of users, but I still don't get, like, the coupling seems so loose that it really ruins everyone's day, because you can't guarantee consistency when you're developing, right? Like, if you were doing a modular system where everybody's working on different modulars that are compiling down to one thing, you could compile the monolith locally, and if it doesn't build, you know why, and that tells you some shit about how the things you're interacting with are built. But also, I mean, like, you can decouple in the same binary, right? Like, look, oh god, if you want to talk about, there are things that I will make fun of, and one of them is, I'm sure it has its purposes, there's a reason for everything, but, I'm forgetting what it's called already, because we don't use it, it's that another team used it. Mediator. Holy shit. Firstly, not a mediator. It's a pub sub. It's an in-process pub sub. And secondly, it's the same thing. It's an example of how you could completely decouple everything inside of your software. Which is, if we roll back, all that Alan Kay's original definition of object-oriented programming was. It's an actor model. And that's what microservices are, is a gigantic actor model, except because you're not writing in Erlang or whatever, it doesn't have any, like, consistency promises. But yeah, you could do that without doing it over IP. You could do it without being over HTTP, and having a little more coupling, because that's the thing, is Mediator is totally decoupling everything. You can't follow any of the fucking code because you don't know where anything couples to, so you don't know where it's going. You don't know where it's calling into, but also it's inside of a monolith. So you can have the worst of both worlds. So you get no information on the structure of your program, while also not getting the benefit of separated processes communicating to each other like an actor model. And I suppose you could probably have the other way around too. Like, you could have quite tightly, like, I suppose SOAP would be a pretty tightly coupled microservice way to do things. I don't know, because SOAP, I'm not super familiar with SOAP, but SOAP, like, embeds, like, information about the transaction inside of the XML. Anyway, I'm going way off on a thing. Anyway, I don't want to say I think microservices are dumb. It feels worse. Like, I don't see the benefit in terms of modularity. I see people talk about, like, oh, it's great for modularity, but you can make modules in a monolith. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And then at least when other people's shit changes, you know, oh, hey, they're expecting something different. You don't have to go look up a contract somewhere. Anyway, let's get off of that. Fei Yang says, good tools. Cool. All right. Eternal Doorman said, are you talking about the change from macOS to OS X? Which is, honestly, that's also pretty good. Classic, worked a charm. That is the weird thing, is they also, while not having the crazy backwards compatibility that Windows has, for the leaps they've made, it's been pretty impressive. Carbon, you know, I think it's a thing that they get memed on real hard with macOS, but it's not that true. They've provided really pretty decent user experiences for how massive some of those changes have been. they've provided really good continuity historically. As also said, Eternal Doorman, I was more referring to Apple's general willingness to sunset things, albeit usually after a few years of emulation or migration support. Yeah. And Eternal Doorman said to Derek, most of the older GNU tool chain never got much beyond stage 1. That's ouch. Okay, all right. Was I building something? Yeah, we just did A10, right? A10 Warthog. Now it's out of focus too. How's that? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to let's put this. I'm gonna use the tweezers and upset everything. I'm gonna put the Sharpie right here. So, okay, we can autofocus this. So let's do that. There, that's marginally better. And now, at least, I know not to move this below. Okay, we cut this wire apparently. I'm not even drinking. Also said, Derek, we need to calc your awesome surname into English. Derek Kings Mountain sounds gloriously chief enforcer in a fantasy novel. Is that what it is? That's excellent. Wareworm said, it always starts with a good invention, and then everything gets pushed to the extreme until it's total garbage. Everything needed to be Java, or OO, or test-driven, or Agile. Yeah, I think that's the thing. But that's also what I'm saying, is I think that tends to be driven more by non-technical management than it ever is by implementing people. Implementers, once you implement a lot, you understand the importance of balance, right? Like, it's more important to make a thing than it is to, like, use a particular technology to make the thing. Now, sometimes cool technologies can be useful, you know? That's not to say they're not, but using that as the driving force behind your design decisions is almost universally bad. And you know, it's funny, because well, we'll see, since I'm rolling work, we're a contracting house, and since we're rolling off this client in the next month, we will see. I am currently a technical manager. I oversee a team of a few people and tell them, no, you're doing it wrong. But which is new for me. It's pretty cool. But we'll see. I'm not sure if that's still going to be the situation when I move on to whatever my next project is. But I guess what I'm just saying, like, as far as making design decisions and whatnot, something about being a manager had something to do with that. I keep remembering what I'm going to say. Let's just zen out, trying to remember what I was trying to do with this wire, and then it will come back to me maybe. All right, A8, A9, A11. And if I remember correctly, that should go to gal pin 11, if things were right. And yes, they are. Excellent. Excellent, Smithers. I was really convinced I'd just be able to bust out like at least the ROM and the SRAM today. Or in this session, rather. But I forgot. Well, here's what's going on, is I feel like I am drunk right now. I really do. Which explains a lot, because usually I do the rambles when I'm having a drinking session. And I'm not. It's just the sleep deprivation. It's fascinatingly similar. Something about making technical decisions. That's why I was talking about being a manager. No, don't think too hard about it. It will come. It will come. A12 is on pin 2. That's an easy one. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's coming back to me. Was that I keep saying, I don't know what they were thinking making me a manager. And, my managerial skills proper, actually, I still do have that question about, but it is at times like this that I realize, you know what, you gotta give yourself more credit, because, like, you are having all of these. There are a lot of people who are at fairly high technical levels and similar kind of I don't know, corporate hierarchies that aren't having these kinds of technical or philosophical design, etc. thoughts. So, not to toot my own horn, but maybe I don't toot my horn enough sometimes. And yeah, I know what the fuck I'm doing. Surprisingly. What's gonna be my point, vaguely? Alright, A12. And that is that. Alright, A13, A14, and that's it for the ROM. It's maybe adjust mapping, more likely just adjust the way our image is built, and give it 32K instead of 64. Actually, it's still going to be weird because I have to see how I mapped it. Because the actual window of ROM is not 64K. A13 is right here. VCC, right enable. Oh, I need to make sure to tie right enable high. Because I'm not writing to my block mode EEPROM. No, sir. A13. Honestly, I'm probably connecting up too many address lines, like to a point that it's unnecessary. Though, maybe I'll implement banking at some point. Whatevs. Alright, A13. Confirmed. And A14. Yeah, because I do not remember at all the way I mapped this, how much address space I gave myself. And 14 is just at pin 1. That one is easy to remember. Okay, the Sharpie is migrated, but it's kind of working. I just have to learn to really lean in. Which of course means, using my big dumb head to cover up the visibility of what I'm doing entirely. It's by design. It's intentional. Alright, we are going to tie right enable to VCC. Like a wire bit in my finger or something. Let's do that, then I'll check chat. See if you interesting people are saying interesting things. Well, that's not going to work. Let's try that again. Just trying to get a little length of bare wire to bridge it. Let's really gut up the solder on these things. Bridged. And, like, is that it? As far as wiring this wrong? No, I have to do the whole fucking data bus. Wow, good job. Good job. So, chat. Wareroom says, it always starts with a good mention. Yeah, Wareroom says, now everything needs to connect to the IoT cloud, the fridge, the toaster, the car. And there's certain good parts to that, but yeah, it gets a bit much. Some people take a good idea and just take it way too far. Because if it makes a little money, why not blow it up and it should make some more money, right? That's how it works. Which I also love, because, you know, how many times will people learn, like, through experience that that's not the way it works, and yet still keep doing it? Humans, man, we are not brilliant. Not that I want to be like a total bummer on the human race, but man, we love to not learn from our mistakes. All right, D0 starts next to ROM select. But this one's easy, because these are all in order. 0. Well, if I can give a rec, just because it's randomly on the top of my mind, and because I think he totally deserves it. I haven't been on there in a while because I don't watch people stream a lot, which is actually kind of funny. I watch like recorded streams, but I don't often like watch people live stream. Anyway, the one that I have and enjoyed quite a lot is actually David from LTT, the camera guy. His channel is great. He plays some great video games, but like I feel like his channel has a similar vibe to like this right now, where like people start talking about, you know, socio-political shit, and it gets interesting, and everybody's pretty well reasoned. Like it's a good scene of people, and David, like, you know, responds interestingly and intelligently. So anyway, if you dig that, and you dig like watching people play retro games, that guy, really cool. Mad respect. Just a very nice person. I can't even remember. I think it was just because of Twitter that I decided to tune into his shit at all, and I was just so pleasantly surprised. I kind of stopped. I feel bad, you know. Views equals cash. But I just don't have the time to watch people stream. I always end up I'm gonna put it on in the background while I'm working. But the interactivity just gets to me, and I don't end up working. I end up interacting with somebody on their stream for 2 hours, and then realize, you know, I was trying to get to my freelance work, and oh fuck, it's 2 a.m. and I have work in the morning. And that's why I don't watch people stream, ironically. Which is also funny because they're good streamers are like why I decided to switch to streaming in the first place. Oh, baby's moving. Also, I'll say again because I've started watching him again lately a lot, but I love Soding. Nobody's familiar with Soding. Soding is amazing. Russian guy, beautiful, dry sense of humor. Mostly makes, I don't want to say silly garbage because that's demeaning, but he makes kind of semi-pointless projects and has a good sense of humor about them. However, I decided to become a super fan and actually start watching his streams on a day when he was not feeling so hot, and also maybe I personally was not aware of some etiquette, and I got banned off of, like, in the span of about 15 minutes off of his Twitch chat and off of the Discord. And I still feel really bad. A little salty, because I was just trying to, like, be, like, really be his friend, which is silly because he has a ton of viewers. And I think I gave the wrong energy. But he's magnificent. Jacob David Cunningham says, sorry Jacob, says, did you consider your keyboard project done, or is this part of it? You talking this thing? Was I doing something else? Because this is, I mean, maybe someday I'll make a box for it, but I mean, the keyboard part of it is done. If there's one thing that I can say that I did actually do about this thing, is that the keyboard and character output, like I/O routines they're good. The whole system works pretty good. It's just everything that I try and implement on top of them is not working great. Oh, what is this? This is IO3. Okay, just trying to make sure I don't screw it up. Remember, confidence, as you were telling yourself. Just do it. It's probably right. Jacob said, yeah. Yep. Yeah, because I do, like, yeah, I guess you haven't tuned in a while. Maybe we could, I feel like that's a hard thing to stream, because I'd probably be making a plywood box for the thing. And I'm not gonna be sawing down plywood on my workbench. I will give myself that luxury once I get some kind of operating system of some sort running on this thing, or let's make it when it actually can properly boot off of a floppy finally. Then maybe we will go to the luxury of giving the keyboard a case, which gave me the thought that I'm having more and more with this, and by that I mean the thought I had briefly earlier today, is I'm leaning back towards just making my own operating system for it, only because it's such a funky thing. I struggle with, should I go ahead and use 64 DOS, whatever that was called, DOS 65, CPM 65 DOS, whatever that was. It's cool, but I think it's just gonna be easier for me to write my own instead of faffing with it. But also beyond that, what I'm going to be doing with it, I think it's just that it's a simple enough system that it will be fun to write my own you know, system based on disk routines and stuff. And like it's stuff like that system uses a CPM disk format, right? And I would really like to be able to transfer files with the floppy like to and from a PC, so that I can build binaries and put them on the floppy on the PC, and then just stick it in the drive, and we're good to go. But that would mean, pretty much boils down to, it needs to the floppy needs to be fat, therefore the operating system needs to support fat. Therefore, can't really use that DOS 65. And that's what I'm leaning towards. And it's like, for that, it's not that hard to make your own single tasking loadable binary format, because like it's literally like it can just be what's the word? It can be statically linked, I guess. Like obviously it's not going to have DLLs, but I mean as far as like it doesn't need relocation, like a DOS com file. It doesn't need anything fancy like that. You can pretty much build a binary that assumes that it's going to be loaded to a certain place in memory, because it will. And that's your whole binary format. And the system loading and launching binaries is literally just read the file from the floppy disk, put it in memory at that location, jump to it. So it's like, all this stuff is, I think, simple enough that it'll be fun to implement, or, you know, more fun than trying to wrangle that other thing into doing what I want. And then on that note, another thought that I was having, semi-related, but that just occurred to me that's worth rambling about a little bit, is I am curious to see when we get to that phase, because we don't have much RAM, right? I mean, once I add the SRAM on here, we're going to have a lot more, but still, not a ton of RAM. And so, like, for example, doing a 1.44 megabyte floppy with FAT, and doing the traditional way that FAT is usually handled, written, whatever, which is, if you don't know about how FAT is implemented or how it works, there's the thing that the reason FAT is called FAT is there's a thing called the file allocation table, which is basically the linked list of, yeah, it's a big table. It's a linked list of what chunks. What's the actual term they use? Is it chunk? It's not chunk. Anyway, group of sectors that makes up a logical block of data in the system. An allocatable unit on the physical drive. It's the chain of those that make up one file, because they're not necessarily contiguous, right? Because if you append to a file and you need more space, but there's also another file already butting up to it on disk, then you need to put that chunk somewhere else. So that's what the FAT does, anyway. And normally what you do is you read the FAT when the disk is first mounted, and then... Did I fuck up? No. I thought I fucked this up real bad and did solder a bunch of things, but I'm just blind. It looks good. You usually put the FAT, you read it into memory at the beginning, and then as you make changes to the files and the layout of stuff on disk, you update it in memory, which is way faster, and then dump that to disk over time. But you're working out of an in-memory copy of the FAT for speed. Anyway, so if you're working with a big disk, your FAT is going to be pretty big, and it's going to take up a bunch of the memory. And you could just make things slower. That would be fine, and actually always read the FAT off the disk whenever you want to, get part of a file. There's no reason you can't do that. But it would be nice to be able to do that. Anyway, and the whole thing is, if your disk is really big, the FAT is also really big. So what I'm wondering is, can I just, so on a FAT floppy, or any DOS type floppy, there's a block at the beginning of the first sector that set that tells the system what this disk's geometry is. And I'm wondering if I can just, have it be a 1.44 meg floppy, but tell, like, in that header, just say, no, this is a single-sided, single density disk that only has 720 allocatable sectors on it, and that's fine because I don't need a ton of space, but also I just have high density drives and whatnot and high density disks. So there's going to be a fun experiment. Is if you just put the geometry at the top of the disk that tells it, will Windows just be like, okay, I guess that I'm only going to use the first 720 sectors on the first head of this disk and just deal with it? Cluster. Yeah, Wareworm said cluster. Eternal Darwin said track 0. Yes, track 0. And that's all I said. Anyway, that's just a ramble on a thought that I had about that. Okay, now I think I'm done. Let us probe this thing out, program a gal, jam it in here, burn some stuff. It's almost midnight. I need to probably go, but I feel like we could get this doing something now. The ROM is theoretically wired up. So, let's see if that's the case. Firstly, I should probably just go ahead and pop the ROM out again and keep things up here. Hey, Dave is actually chatting in the chat. I thought maybe he finally got sick of me not working on this project while he's over there like running circles around me. But no, he's tuning in now. Okay, let's see about this. Pin 1 is there. Here, let's do this. This is going to be easier for me. A14. Let's make sure it's CPU A14 too. I have made that mistake. A14. Sorry, let me get this in shot. CPU A14. Yoodly-doo. Good. A12. Very good. A7. Ooh, looks great. A6. Looks awesome. A5. Fantastic. A4. Hell yeah. A3. Very good. A2. Excellent. A1. Still excellent. A0. I am happy. IO0. That is D0. Very good. D1. Great. D2. So good. And then ground. Loving it. Next, IO3, which is D3. Very good. D4. Awesome. D5. Super neat. D6. I'm running out of silly things to say. D7. Cool. And that's it. Because it's 8 bits. Very good. And then chip enable should go to whatever pin was on the PAL, which is... Dave is in the chat now and says, better late than never? Of course, Dave. Good to see you. Because I chat with you about all of our projects. Did you catch anything about the ongoing video card thing, and any thoughts? Because I'm having so much fun with that. This is also still fun, but this has become a bit of a job now, which I should. This is just for fun, but anyway. I don't want to disappoint the fans. That's what I'm saying. Pin 19, so this should be 2019. I mean, we already did this. That was chip enable, which is boot, IO3, IO4, IO5, IO6, IO7, chip enable. V good. A10, which would be CPU A10. Great. Output enable, which should be grounded, and it is. A11. That's A11. A9. CPU A9. Great. I got those backwards at the start, and looks like I did not F them up. A8. Cool. A13. Neat. Right enable should be, yep, good. Tied to VCC, and VCC is tied to VCC. So that looks good. And I already buzzed out the gal, right? So I'm good. We're good. Everyone's good. So now the next thing is, let us go back to Code World and re-review this whole thing and how this is mapped. Man, firstly, I mean, just let me just tell me this isn't looking so much tighter. I'm happy with that. It feels nice and solid. It feels less stupid than this thing. But you know, you have to walk. I almost said you have to walk before you can crawl. I worry for my son. But the fun thing is, putting in the SRAM should be breezy because the I almost certainly the SRAM and the 32-bit SRAM and the 32-bit flash ROM will have the exact same pinout, so it should just be like one-to-one. So that should be pretty nice, except for the chip select and the right enable. Then the floppy controller is going to be the big thing, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. It's a few lines to the floppy connector, a line to the clock crystal, a few configuration lines to VCC and power, then 8 bits of data bus, and 3 address lines. And the chip select. And that is it. So I don't think that will be that bad. But let's think about software. Shall we? Well, let's cancel out of that because that was frightening. So here's the thing. Here's the thing to remember. I'm always bad at this on the fly. Confidence. If you screw it up, it's going to be fine. ROM mapping. Right. So our ROM chip enable is currently if right. It is high, which means not active if ROM select is high, which is an active low signal, so if it's high, that means don't do nothing. Or A14 is low, so that means if A14, so that means this is only asserted in the case that A14, A13, and A12 are all high. Right? So, and there's a silly thing, because that means, I guess this was my thought in the head, is that more or less, since we're running all of the address lines directly to the ROM, it means that our ROM is going to match one-to-one to our like physical memory space. You know, like you can think of it existing at all points across the address map, mirrored twice across the whole NES address map, but for the cartridge area, which is just the top half of memory, it'll exist in all of those places, but it will only be activated in that area, which is the top something. Anyway, so we just have to make sure our code produces a 32K image and that our reset vectors are, and other vectors are at the top of that. We should be good. Oh, and that's actually important. I wasn't thinking about that. And that our code, like the actual entry point, is not below that address of A14, A13, and A12 all being high, which would put us at, and also A15 is implicitly high. So where does that put us at? Ooh. I also should probably... Yeah, actually I need to wire output enable to this this read B signal because we're doing chip select regardless of whether we're reading or writing, which is, that would cause us problems. So that is actually a change we need to make. It is flopping, or unwiring our output enable and rewiring it to whatever pin is read B, RDB. Okay, so output enable is on pin 22, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. That makes sense. That's the one that's plugged into ground. Fancy that. And let's just lift it. Lifted. Sweet. And rewire that too. I have no idea where that wire went. Did it spring off into outer space? Is it gonna cause me trouble? I think it fucked off into outer space. I don't see it on the board. Well, if I see problems, then my first assumption will be that wire is somewhere in there touching things. Now I need to connect output enable to my read signal, which is pin 16 of the GAL, so that the output enable is only asserted when the CPU is reading. Don't really know why I'm even using the ROM select. Like, I could just run RWB with some, like, an inverted RWB going to that pin should just be it. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. It will work either way. Anyhow. Okay, which pin was that? 28, 27, 26, 20, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. And that was 16, right? Yes, it was. 16, 2019, 18, 17, 16. It really messes with me thinking about, as I work on this, how long ago VCF Midwest was. And this cartridge is basically, I mean, like this, the progress of this project is basically more or less, like maybe a couple weeks fresher than what it was at VCF. And VCF was so long ago now. Oh no. Maybe my goal can be like have this done for next VCF. 2019, 18, 17, 16. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I got brains in there. They function some of the time. Just to make sure. 18? No, 20. Do you see? I just called pin 20 pin 18. This is why I have to do this. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. Just to check my sanity. After all the good shit I was talking about, just going for it, winging it. It's that I know I can't trust my brains right now. Okay, so with that, let me start by actually burning this 16V8. Is this it? Yes, it is. So, let's make sure that this is compiled. I would love to save this file. And, oh, put my window way the frick over here. Looks good. Alright, do I have XG Pro up? I think I do. Yes, I do. Use this history list that I have not been using this whole time. Holy shit, that made my life so much easier just now. Load. It's just a PC. NES. Here, this would probably be helpful. Source. ROM FTC mapper. Make sure. Yes, it was made at 2:19, 11:57 p.m. Very good. Program. Do it. And then make sure that I put this in the right way around. What is chat talking about? I know you said this a long time ago, so I probably shouldn't even ask what the context was, but you said, how does he know everything's not connected to everything? Are you just asking everybody else about me? As far as the gaggle of wires, that's why I probe everything when I'm done doing it. Yeah, it's not about, as you can see, it's not about memorizing stuff, it's just following the list of wires that need to go from place to place, one at a time. And if you do each one right, you're bound to have something that kind of works. Matt Nottingham says, morning. I don't know what time zone that would be then, Matt, but very good morning to you. GMT? That's a very, without trying to draw too many assumptions, that's a very Anglo name. So, Wareroom said 6 a.m. here, which it's Germany, right? I always mess that up. I keep saying you're in Poland. And Wareroom said, nah, Mexico should be building a cluster of NESs. Don't sidetrack. Oh, EEST, Finland. Okay, I'm getting not so bad at my time zones. That actually makes more sense, because EST, East Coast US time, is GMT GMT minus 5. And so then the UK is GMT, so it's 5 hours ahead of this, so 8 hours, which is an assumption. It's midnight here, so I'm like getting up for work at 8 a.m. or whatever. Whoops, EET. I wouldn't have known. I don't know what the two E's are. Oh, Eastern Europe time? Maybe? No. But that would be the west part of Europe. Actually, I mean, I guess I don't have a good sense. It gets so high up, and then the Earth curves, and I guess that would kind of be easterly. And Finland is always, I always get that messed up, because Finland is the more inland bit. Right? Yeah, Eastern Europe. Finland is the one that's like almost like teardrop shaped, right? And then Sweden is, I just always get them backwards. Next to Russia, yeah. Oh yeah, of course, because the Russian annexation of Finland. Hotter. Because man, they just love annexing stuff. Historically, all over the place. It's what you do. Okay, that is the glue logic. Glued. Presumably working. So now let us go to the proper software. Fire up VS Code on this machine for the first time in however freaking long. Oh, look, it's my serial stuff from when I was doing that. Let's close this project. Let's use this one that's on my other screen. This seems more relevant. Look at all that classic software of ours. So now the question is going to be, does this even work at all? So like I said, the first thing to make sure is, it's mainly, I think, going to be adjusting our linker. Hello, what was my link scrimp called? My link scrimp? Oh, brains, give me some kind of brains. Link.cfg. Right, so our memory starts at 0. Ah, yes, so our code main starts at F000. Does that continue to make sense? I think that would be fine, right? Because, yeah, that would be F, because there were 3 bits that need to be on 14, 13, and 12. Plus 15 is implicitly on. So therefore, right? Sure. Well, this is producing a 64K image, right? So that's part of the thing. So if it shouldn't really matter, but I can adjust this size down to from 64K to 32K, which we're going to need anyway, or else the programmer is going to fetch at us. And then this will end up being 7 again. Well, it wouldn't really matter, kind of, except that now the linker would yell at us because F000 would be outside of our memory space. Ooh, but this makes stuff weird, right? Because this is gonna fuck with our symbols. Yeah. Ooh. That is funky. Because our symbols are actually all, they're not hardwired, and also like symbols internally to the code are all going to be relative to where the linker thinks they are. And yeah, if I move them like that, it's going to think it's at 7,000 in the code, and it's going to say, about that. That is not where it actually is on the hardware. And it's going to jump into space and commit Harry Larry. So I guess actually what I need to try and do is build a 64K image with the way I have things set up. There's probably a more sensible way to do this, but I'm just not thinking it through right now. And basically take the high 32K of it and write that into the ROM. Yeah? Yeah? I don't know. Let's try building this. Let's get a terminal. Oh, I was going to say about cluster of NESs. I'm forgetting my thoughts now, but I keep thinking of like massively parallel systems of crap processors. Like, I feel like where you would be aware of the Apple Crate. It was a project that I wish I should look back at it, because when I was aware of it, I was too young and green to appreciate like the for lack of a better term, white paper, like the write-up he did on building the thing. But the apple crate was some dude. It was a crate, and he had like, I don't know, 5 Apple IIs that, if I remember correctly, I think he networked together via the joystick port and made like a 5-unit cluster of Apple IIs. And, you know, did your usual parallel shenanigans, like doing a super quick fractal and whatnot. Mandelbro set. Good shit. Oh, not even 3 hours? Come on. Junior stuff. What were you doing? Building? Ah, yes. Link.ps1. Do it. Do it. Okay. Theoretically, we built a thing. Now the question is, can XG Pro, and I don't think it can, handle loading an image? Actually, I think it has an offset into the file to start reading from. I think it does. Anyway, handle an image that is bigger than the target device. And I think we can. There is our friendly little ROM. Let's do it. Let's load basic.bin. Yes, 12:07 a.m. at on 220. Good, cool. That's the one. And from file start address. Yes, there we go. And what would that be? Oh God, what would that be? If our address space is 4 digits, we need half of that. That would be from start address 8000, right? Yes. Matt Nottingham, that's not the most Finnish name ever. Maybe that's a super secret anglicized name. Because, I mean, you know, pretty much all the Christian names have regional versions. Oh no! Baby noises. Stay asleep, baby. Be very quiet. Don't say a word. Or else I have to deal with it. And that sucks. Because I am a bad father. Oh, Matt said from UK escaped 3 years ago. Did that work? Holy fuck, that worked. Theoretically, our entry is F065, which should be 70F5, or 7065, F065, which would be F0, or 7065. Let's look at 7065. 7065, 7065. Yeah, well, I think this is like just gonna work. 7,000. Right, and we have a bunch of text and then an entry point somewhere there. So I think this worked. I think it did. Hey, Red Geck, I think you caught probably the best time because, well, you missed the always fun unnecessary political discourse. But we're burning a ROM. We have moved things over to the card. Exciting. Do it. Gex said, no, not the political discourse. I know. People were saying, I mean, it got the people going. It's what they come for. And I mean, you know, to be fair, I don't shy away from it at this point, because, like, if my whole point is just to have fun and attract the kind of people that, like, would want to be interested in what I'm interested in, then why hold back on, like, who I am, right? You're here for the projects, but also for who I am, which is fun. Hope to not get like a big head about that. I just mean, you know, you look for friends that are like you, right? That's what I'm getting at. I think that might just work. Okay, we need to set up a new scene. And I need to figure out where I'm going to feed power to the NES from. Because it's not really set up. But let's get a keyboard over here. Let's get a new scene. The video capture should be set up. Come on. Oh, wait. Let's make sure the NES is on screen. It is, kind of. Let's get that front center. Yeah, gross. Sure. Why not? Okay, so let me plug everything in, set up a scene. See if it works or not. If it does or not, I'm done for the day. Okay, there's the video hookup. Now I just need power and scene. Oh, I should probably look at the code too, because I didn't, and I think it was immediately starting up in the bitbang loop. So that may be misleading as far as functionality. Power light comes on. All right. Now, the scene. The scene. Oh shit. We'll just turn off the baby. I'm almost done. Just don't. He's right there. I'm gonna hear him. He's right above me. Kek says, I do love my parasocial relationships. It's true. Don't we all? They're weird. Though I like that I have this small enough group that, like, if we ever met in real life, I think it would be totally normal. Like, not the weird parasocial thing. I mean, not that... I think parasocial relationships, as long as you don't get weird about them, they're nice. But we're a very small community, so, like, it borders on not really being parasocial. Anyway, jokes aside, nice to catch you for once. Damn time zones. And I forgot. I think Redgeck is also... Europe. Yes, thanks for the quote, Redgeck. That was my intention. Totally self-aware on that one. Oh, Jacob said, have a good one. I'll keep an eye out for your other streams. We'll see. You know, I'm doing them at random because I'm accepting that's who I am as a person. Consistently inconsistent. And Eternal Doorman was just saying, Redgeck, where you at? And by JDC. Yep, Redgeck is also Europe somewhere. I gotta go to... I mean, I've honeymooned in Europe. I think I've talked about that before. Because that was my wife wanted, like, the nice, relaxing honeymoon. So we did a 2-week thing. First week was visiting friends in London, and then some Europe stuff. Because I wanted to go back to the history. I'm interested in Europe for all the shit that... I'm interested in that hemisphere, let's also say. Everything about it, not just Europe. But, you know, that's a starting off point for me as a European person. A person of European descent. There we go. Anyway, but there's a bunch of, like, a lot of Northern Europe. Firstly, seems like it has really good nerd scenes. We've talked about Chaos Computer Club and shit. I would love to have a reason to visit the Nordic countries and Germany and whatnot. I have the closest I've come is I spent 2 hours on an accidental layover in Amsterdam. But I've been to, I went to Paris, of course, and it was Paris, it was London, Paris, Geneva was Europe, and then we flew to Bali. It was a cool trip, but I really want to go back to Europe. Love me some just like going through the Schengen zone like a vagrant. Anyway, we're getting so close to the end. Scene. We're setting up a scene. Let's do that. So I have a scene called game. Theoretically, there is a source on here called RCA. Okay. It's theoretically there. Ho ho. All right. That's a night. Here's what I'm gonna do. Let's pull up my face. I don't know exactly what's up with that first O. Oh, I think it dropped us into the monitor. But it was, that's our BitBang serial reading nothing. I can't remember what's up with that first O. There's a reason for that. Anyway, add existing. My face. No, I didn't want to take over everything. I just wanted to say goodbye while also going... Oh, check that out. Yeah. So, whoa, check that out. And actually, see, that wasn't so bad. Like 4 hours of work, and we have ROM code running again. And we have an SRAM on there, and we have a spot for a floppy controller. I think another session, and we'll just have this thing buttoned back up and ready to go and much more reliable. Do you see it freaking out? Because I don't see it freaking out. Yeah, bud. Where do I want to look at? What's cool? Yeah. I think this is going to be way more stable. Oh my god, what's an interesting address? I guess let's go with, what was it? Where was the entry address? was it F065? Yeah. Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. I couldn't ask for a better ending. I was ready for after all that it just to not work because, you know, that's how it often goes. But, nailed it first try. Redgeck says, T-shirt merch with Heckley win. As soon as you make it, Redgeck. This is a community-driven project. Redgeck says, this looks great. You did an awesome job, my dude. I am actually, honestly, quite pleased. I don't often give myself the benefit of appreciating that feeling of, yeah. No, you know what? I did great. I did great. Really happy with this. It's a tight little card, man. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Here, I'm gonna pop it out. Because it's nice. Look at that thing. Look at that sweet little thing. You just plug it in. It just works. It just works. That's good. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm very happy with this. I am glad that I made this decision instead of trying to continue hacking on. Which was, I was having a serious moment when I was sitting on the toilet earlier today going, I'm going to do a stream today. I'm going to do it, but I have to decide what my steps are actually going to be. And I crapped out the right idea. Yeah, buddy. Fan-fucking-tastic. All right. Thank you, guys. Yep. Have a good work day, Matt. Thankfully, this isn't too late. I can probably reasonably. It's 12:21 EST right now, so I can probably reasonably go to bed right now and wake up at like 7:30, 8, and have some relatively decent sleep tonight for once. But man, let me just say before I sign off, friggin' great weekend. I'm very happy. Let's just see. In this weekend, let's pull this back up because this comes full circle. I mean, this isn't at all related. I'm just saying I've had a good weekend, and we will bring it full circle to this thing. Let's give it some power. For anybody who's on the stream and didn't watch the earlier part or missed it or whatever, I'm working on that video card again. For shits, well, not for shits, well, everything is for shits and giggles, but because which one of these is my USB cable? Oh, it's none of them. It's this one. Because I want to build a MIPS-based Unix workstation to fulfill my childhood dreams. Anyway. This is going somewhere. I promise you. There we go. Yeah, good fucking weekend. As far as projects, I think it was pretty good. Otherwise, too. Yeah. Won't go back into it. You can watch the beginning of the last stream. Working on the video card, making it accelerated with a 68K, running C code on here. Lost some sleep over it and had not great sleep this weekend, and that's why I'm so loopy. But did that, got this working, running C code on there. Super stoked. Probably this is the most advanced thing I've ever built so far. And this running great. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'm super happy with my progress on various things this weekend. Alrighty. Yeah, Red Gek, if you, I mean, you know, it's like a hour and a half or something. But if you want to go look at the previous thing, I have it's right at the beginning of the video. I have a whole rant on what I've been up to and the fact that I'm gonna build. Well, I'm trying to build. I think I can pull it off. My own little shitty MIPS workstation. Redkek said, "Don't just drop phrases like that without warning. Sounds advanced." Yeah, but it's MIPS R3000 based, which is it's barely supported by the Linux kernel. You can build MIPS 3000 builds, but it's rough, and I talk about that, so I won't go into it more. But okay, it's going good. Thanks, guys. This really was a great stream. Tons of people dropping in. Very happy. Good to see you all again. And on that note, see ya. I love ya. Bye-bye.